Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show. Craig, welcome to the Principal Podcast.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Let's jump straight into it. What got you into growth strategy and consulting work, Craig?
Well, I had come up through large Fortune 100 companies in marketing and strategic business development roles, and at some point transitioned into my own firm almost 25 years ago. So we are basically doing what I did as an executive, but we're doing it on our own terms, and we're doing it with our own firm, as opposed to being part of a bigger organization.
Why is that? Why not doing it as part of a bigger organization?
At some point, every executive gets too old and too expensive, to be honest with you, and that's what happened to me. I was not cheap, and I was getting a little bit older. And many of the large corporations, they want a 30-year-old or a 32-year-old, and I was a little bit older than that. So I didn't have a lot of choice. Fortunately, it's worked out very well for us, and we've going on our 25th year of doing this around the world.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
So tell us about that problem that you solve for companies. Like, what is it that you're helping them achieve exactly?
Our firm focuses on helping companies accelerate their top line or their organic growth, which basically means help them find new customers, help them penetrate and expand into new markets, and help them expand their relationship with their existing customers. Typically, this involves a fair amount of strategic targeting, really good and compelling communication, marketing communication, and thirdly, excellent sales execution. Those are the three pillars, I guess you would say, of what we do: targeting, marketing communication, strategic messaging, differentiation, value delivery, helping your company stand out among other competitors, create value propositions that are appealing to your customers, and then finally, making sure the sales team is well aligned, properly structured, properly compensated, and highly accountable to the performance that they can do for you. That's kind of our world. We are not in the cost-cutting business. We're not a consultant that shows companies how to cut costs. We're not in the process improvement business, and we don't deploy technologists who build platforms. We literally are experts in new customer acquisition and relationship expansion. That's what we do.
I love a very clear positioning and offering. This is what you do, so I wouldn't expect any less. Who do you do this for, Craig? Who is it that you're helping?
Yeah, mostly what I'll call middle market companies between 50 million in annual revenue and 500 million is kind of the middle market as we define it. Occasionally, in the last several years, we've been getting engagements with divisions of large multinational corporations that are much bigger. But in that case, we're working with a mid-level, sort of a functional leader. When we work with middle market companies, we're typically working with CEOs, presidents, general managers, people at the C-level whose very jobs and livelihood depends on their ability to drive measurable growth for their organization. It's a different dynamic in a mid-sized company than a large corporation.
100%. And so my question, which I feel is going to be your bread and butter anyways, is how do you go from talking to the CEOs, presidents, VPs of those middle market companies to middle management or head of divisions within those larger multinational corporations? I mean, this is a complete different avatar. So what made you make the switch?
It's a very, very good question. When we deal with CEOs and C-level executives in mid-sized companies, we obviously have to have a broad understanding of different businesses, different functions within a company, and we have to ask the right questions to be able to engage them in a way that uncovers their issues. We call that asking strategic questions and going into those interviews and discovery meetings prepared. We do a little bit of pre-research, but we want to basically engage the CEO and see if we can uncover possible areas where we could provide assistance driving that growth. When we're dealing with a middle manager in a larger company, their whole objectives are different than a C-level executive. Their job is to keep their job. Their job is to manage budgets, to direct outside vendors and suppliers and agencies, if you will. but they're not. Their job is not to think outside the box, not to think about growing the organization. That's outside of their pay grade. So they tend to be in the job preservation, budget management business. What we try to do in that case is to quickly engage lower level people in our organization who are more aligned with the age and the mentality of those middle level managers who tend to be younger, who tend to be millennials and Gen Z, Gen Y, as opposed to senior level people who our senior people relate very well with them. So we want to make sure we align the right people on the client side with the right people on our side.
How do you do that? Do you make sure that you have staff or team members of any age and generation, but still with the right level of skills? How do you match those different avatars with the right people in your company?
That's exactly right. We have about 50 consultants in our organization, and they range from 20-somethings to some of them. One of them is 81 years old. He's a sales enablement, sales assessment expert. So we have a broad range of talent on our team, and we just make sure we marry up the right person with the right client contact to create rapport, to build a level of confidence and chemistry between the two sides. And it's my job as the managing partner and founder of the firm, along with my other managing partner, to make sure that we put the right team in place and align them in with the right, proper client contacts.
Likeness is something that a lot of professional services firms overlook when it comes to pipeline, marketing, and sales.
That's right.
And it is actually something that makes a big difference. Yep. So give us the masterclass, Craig. This is what you do with your clients. So how does it work within your company? How do you get the attention of those middle market CEOs, presidents, basically decision makers, and the decision makers within the larger organizations, but more middle management? What has worked for you marketing-wise to get traction?
In terms of developing business and attracting a business? Is that what you're talking about?
So I like to see this as, so there is offer pricing, there is marketing, and there is sales. And so here what I'm really asking is marketing, right? How do you get attention? What do you do for brands? How do you get leads to knock on the door? I'm not talking about closing those deals yet. I'm just talking about what has worked for you guys to get the attention of the right people.
There are, over the 24 years that we've been around, we've been refining our business development approach. And so it's multifaceted. Obviously, the best way to get new business is through referrals from previous clients or people who know you. The second best way is when a senior executive goes to another company and brings you with him. We've had several examples of that where we've worked for 2 or 3 companies with the same CEO who goes from one company to the next. The third thing that we do is thought leadership. So we have 20 ebooks, if you will, electronic books on growth topics that we deal with and that we have solutions for, that we make available through social media, through targeted emails and other channels, digital channels. We also have about 50 videos on topics around growth and strategies for growth that are also available and on our website. And we also have several other kind of what I'll call clickable presentations. They're not videos and they're not books. They're more, you click at your own speed. We call them click books. All of that material is thought leadership that shares the issues, the challenges, and some suggestions. Now, the most important thing for anybody listening to this podcast who's in professional services to keep in mind when it comes to growing your business through thought leadership is the formula for success is nobody wants to be sold. They want to be engaged. They want to be educated. They want to be entertained. And if you can do that, they will pay attention and they will stay with you. As soon as they feel like they're being sold, they will tune out. That means as a professional service provider, you need to be about 80% educational, informative, and engaging, and about 20% self-promoting. So the formula we use for our own consulting firm and what we advocate with our clients when we do content marketing programs is to give the audience something of value, engage them, raise an issue, give them tips and suggestions. Don't mention your own name or your own company until the end. And in the end, you can say, oh, by the way, our firm deals with these challenges. If you ever need help, we're here for you. So 80% informational and 20% self-promotional is the formula. And we use this when we put out thought leadership through social media channels, targeted emails, and other things like that. The other things we do is public speaking. So whenever you can get an opportunity to speak, people see people who are speaking as thought leaders, as experts. And it's good to be viewed as an expert when you're in the consulting business. So public speaking, thought leadership, content, digital marketing being pushed out on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, referrals. When we have anniversaries and things to celebrate, we do that as well. You just want to kind of keep your company top of mind because you want to be in the consideration set. About 97% of the time, companies don't have any needs for people like us. But every now and then a need pops up, and we'd like to be a brand or a company they think of and consider for support. Being top of mind is important to have that happen.
I mean, I opened the question with masterclass, so I guess we delivered on that. I have a few follow-up questions, Craig, that I would love to pick your brain on. How do you think about this content in the first place? Because obviously content is all the hype, everybody's trying to do content. I mean, I'm yet to talk to a professional service firm who hasn't tried or who isn't trying actively to do stuff on LinkedIn, very often with zero results. How do you think about those videos that you're making? How do you think about the type of content that you're going to produce and how, so that it reaches the right people with the right angle? It stays 80% educational, 20% sales focused, jab, 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 hook, as Gary Vee says. How do you think about all this? What's the content strategy to make it work?
Well, there's two pieces. In terms of the content itself, we try to think of things that are common challenges or growth challenges many companies have, many organizations can relate to. And then we explore and dive in to those challenges and give suggestions and tips on how to kind of wrestle your way through those challenges. The other thing that is really, really important is when you're packaging up that content for social media or for email distribution or for an ebook or a video, whatever it is to be provocative. Give the reader a reason to open the page and start to read and consider or watch your video. So, for example, one of our ebooks is called, I'm trying to think of the name of it. What does Amazon, Netflix, and Google know that you don't know? And then a subtitle would be how to, test, plan, and explore to grow your organization strategically. So give them a provocative title, give them a reason to open up the cover or turn the video on and begin to engage in the content. And we always try to have a very engaging and provocative title to anything we're doing. We have another one about what are the leaders on Shark Tank know, and how should you view your business like a shark. And then we talk about the questions you should be asking if you're a CEO. Another one, so every title, if you look at our 20 ebooks on our website, they all have very provocative titles that give you a reason to open it up and read it. It's something you'd probably want to look into. And then our job is, once you get past that cover page or that title, start to engage them quickly on do the setup, set up the issue and the challenge, and then offer up 4, 5, 6, 8 tips that the reader would find value in. And to do it at no charge, to do it in a way that is not overly self-promotional, like I mentioned. And people will engage with that kind of content. The other thing I've learned is number 3 is keep it short. If it's a video, nobody wants to watch a 4-minute, 5-minute video unless they're learning how to, put their bicycle together or something like that they have to. But if they're looking at marketing or business content, 90 seconds or less is the ideal time frame for a video. When we go to 2 minutes or longer, we lose people very quickly, and we have analytics and metrics around that. So over the years that we've been doing content marketing for our clients, we've learned the optimal length of a video, for example, tends to be about 90 seconds or less. 60 seconds is better, and you can even do it in 30 seconds in some cases. People have inherently short attention spans, and the younger they are, the shorter their attention spans are. Gen Z, Gen Y really have very little patience for long videos. Baby boomers will watch longer videos, but again, when you get much over 90 seconds or 2 minutes, you lose even a baby boomer.
So I agree, short form content is all the hype. I'm gonna push back slightly, if you don't mind me, Craig, although obviously you have much more experience than me in this. What we see working a lot is getting someone's attention with the short form content that needs to be spot on, good, and delivering value. Basically, you need to earn every second on a short form, but conversion is eventually, and like brands and like trust, authority is gonna come from the long form, but you need to earn the rights to give someone long form, meaning having them on your website or your YouTube channel is not enough. They need to know before they click that they're going to get value from it. And this happens as a consequence of getting value from the short. I feel this is how you convert, which takes more time though.
Yeah, I agree. Now, our organization has not done very many podcasts, but we have done presentations that end up being pushed out through digital channels that are long form. Some of them are up to an hour long. And you're right. If we've earned the right, people will watch that hour long presentation in video form. But we've got to earn that right, and we've got to be seen as a thought leader and an expert in the topic.
Amen. Okay, talk to me about the end of the funnel here. How do you convert all this speaking, thought leadership, content, short, long, into clicks, leads, sales? What does sales motion look like for a firm like yours, Craig?
Well, what we advocate for our clients and we advocate for ourselves is what we call multi-touch, multi-channel digital communication. Because very few people are in the market for your services at any given time, the estimates are anywhere from 1% to 3% of the market really needs what you're selling at any given time. That means it's incumbent on us to remain top of mind and to use any available channel we can that we can afford to be touching them with our name, with our brand, and with our thought leadership all the time. So what does that mean? Well, social media. You can post things in live feeds for nothing as long as you know how to use the platform. You can also use paid digital content where you place things and give people access to things if you've got the budget for that. Number 3, email. Email is the number one most used B2B communication tool for finding business. Targeted email is very powerful, but you've got to know how to use it. You got to get past spam filters and email appliances that will mislead you and think that they're clicking on things when they're not. So you got to know the ins and outs of email as well. Email is a very powerful, inexpensive channel. Another one is outbound calling, telesales. If you've got people on your team who can make a couple calls a day, if you will, cold calls, you just might engage somebody and have a conversation that can turn into a discovery call and ultimately a new client engagement. So as many channels as you can afford to put content in and to do it regularly, every week, sometimes multiple times per week throughout the year to remain top of mind. The other thing that we find with our clients and with ourselves is you got to keep your database of targets current. It's estimated that 3 to 5% of an email database, a contact database, becomes obsolete every month. People change jobs, they retire. So you've got to keep your database correct, your email address is accurate, and you've got to stay on top of that. It's called list hygiene. You've got to perform hygiene on your list to keep it accurate. You've got to do validation tests and so forth, so that when you're pushing out content, it's going to people who are really seeing it. Those are the tips I would give.
I love this. I feel this is all the way up to a booked conversation with you guys. How do you think about the rest? What does sales motion look like? What are nurturing case studies, if at all? Like, how do you think about sales process, Craig?
So sales process for us has 3 steps. It starts with a discovery conversation with a senior executive, or a person I like to say, somebody who can say yes, somebody who controls a budget, can move money around, and can engage somebody who they believe could help their organization, even if it's not in the plan and even if it's not budgeted. So that's the first thing, is a discovery conversation with somebody who could say yes, who's in a position of authority that can influence the organization's activities. A CEO, a president, a general manager, a senior vice president, those kinds of people. So a discovery call where we are obviously introducing our capabilities without being overbearing, but at the same time asking a fair amount of questions about the prospect's business, so that we can come back and suggest that we have some ideas based on what they've shared with us in that discovery conversation. We'd like to come back to you with step number 2, which is some ideas, or what we call a framework. If we were working with you, no obligation, no commitment required, we'd like to lay out what we heard today in this discovery call, some ideas on where we think your organization could do some things differently, and how our firm could support you if engaged we ever worked with you, which is what steps would we take? What deliverables would you expect from those steps? Who on our team would support you in the talent level? How long would it take, and the sequence of activities? And finally, the high-level pricing. It's not a proposal. It's not a contract. It's a conversation. It's a PowerPoint interactive sort of discussion where the prospect can say, do you also do this? And we can say, yes, we could do that as well. And they could also say, you know what, you suggested this, but we were already doing that pretty well. We wouldn't need help on that. So we can refine the scope of where there might be an opportunity to put a relationship in place. So step 2 is a framework presentation, typically in PowerPoint form, where we lay out the things I just mentioned, what we heard from the prospect, where we see opportunities, what we would do if we were helping them, and how we would do it and who would do it. The last piece, if they like that conversation, they like the framework, we've refined kind of where there might be some real opportunity, is to do an engagement agreement. And that is a binding contract. It's done in draft form. In fact, in about an hour, I'm talking to a large multinational company. We've had kind of a nurturing dialogue for the last few months. And today I'm going to try to get them from a framework to a engagement agreement draft that we'll turn around in 24 or 48 hours. That is a contract. It's typically 8 to 12 pages. Two or three of those pages are terms and conditions. The first 7 or 8 pages are, 6 or 7 pages are meat and potatoes of the contract. Here's the background. Here's the goals of the engagement. Here's the deliverables and the steps. Here's the timeline. Here's the team. Here's the pricing, including incremental costs that are outside the fees. And then a couple pages of terms and conditions. And that's typically 6, 7, 8 pages long in great detail that spells out exactly who's doing what and what they can expect. It's a draft because we could always make adjustments and then finally sign it. Both parties would sign it and we would kick off the engagement. 3 steps: discovery, framework, engagement agreement.
Love that. I have 2 follow-up questions on this, Craig. How do you think about, so what we found is that $50 to $500 million a year, you're typically going to have a CEO, right, a high-level decision maker involved. But when it comes to marketing and sales, you're potentially going to have 1, 2 other people. So at what point do you make sure that you involve all the right people within that conversation? And yeah, let's start with this. And I'll ask the second question after. How do you think about decision makers for the $50 to $500 million a year? And for the multinational, at what point do you involve them? And how do you manage the expectations for the ultimate decision maker, but also for the person who is going to be in charge of using your services?
It's more challenging with the $50 to $500 million middle market company because we engage a CEO or a president, but we have to quickly ingratiate ourselves with their functional leaders, their head of marketing, their head of sales, their head of innovation, because those are the people who the CEO will count on to work with us day to day. When we're dealing with a large multinational, we're typically dealing with a functional leader, and we're simply doing something that's in their budget, and they're hiring us as a provider for one particular service and nothing more. When we deal with a middle market company and a CEO, we're typically dealing with a 12-month integrated engagement, targeting, financial analysis, market research, positioning and messaging, website updates, creative development for sales materials and so forth. And then ultimately could be sales training and sales compensation. It's the full scale of the kinds of areas of the company that we might touch in 12 months that affect growth. When we're dealing with a large company, a large multinational, and it's just a division, they may have a particular need. For example, we had a large German technology company hire us just to do content marketing. We had a healthcare company hire us just to do competitive intelligence monitoring and to be able to monitor their competitors and push out digitally through secure channels updates on what their competition was doing. That's all we did. We never got any more opportunities. So big companies, they tend to pigeonhole people like us. Smaller companies will do more things and play more roles and play a bigger role in the growth of their organization. And consequently, those relationships can go many years. We just wrapped up our 5th year with a $30 million healthcare company. 5 years of working and being basically their entire marketing machine: content development, digital marketing, media buying and planning, message development, market research, new product development, and channel expansion. So we were doing a lot of things for that little company that they counted on us for, and they paid us a fee for that. And it was typically 12-month contracts, 5 of them.
Which company would you rather work with then? Because I feel this is something that a lot of professional services firms chase, like the bigger and higher up avatar, like going at market, bigger budgets and so on. But hearing you, I'm also understanding that it might not always be the most profitable, nor the more interesting work, right? If you're pigeonholed into a specific scope of work versus working with a smaller company where you can do everything and be a bit more creative. So you personally, Craig, which one would you rather go after and work with?
Oh, we started our business and we love working with middle market companies where we get the CEO, where we get the C-level, where we work across the entire leadership team. We're dealing with strategic issues. We're executing integrated programs with a lot of different steps along the way as an extension of our client's leadership team. That's way more interesting and engaging to us. The big companies, we tend to be so pigeonholed, And I personally am not that involved in the execution, so it's not that interesting for me once we land the business. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you, and this is really important for any professional services firm, is you got to be conscious of how our model works. There's two big pieces. There's development and there's delivery. Development is finding, engaging the right people and signing contracts and managing at that leadership level. Delivery is doing what you've said you can do to help them. And we have a lot of delivery people. And out of 50 people, I've got 47 delivery people. I only have one or two or three development people who can talk to a CEO or a senior person in an intelligent way about their business on a broad level to cover various aspects of their business to uncover where there might be some need. So development people are really valuable, but very difficult to find. And many people they're not entrepreneurial and they don't want to do it. But there's a lot of money in it because if you're a development person and you're good, you can make a lot of money. Delivery people get paid very specific fees to do very specific things. It's very limited. They don't make a lot of money, but they do certain things for a price and they do it well. And we count on them. And we put those teams together of development people to make sure we're delivering for our clients.
Makes a lot of sense.
Delivery people, I meant to say, not development people.
The other question I wanted to ask you, Craig, going back to your sales motion, and I know we are spending lots of time on marketing and sales in this interview, but this is what you do, so I feel this is valuable for the audience. How do you think about sales velocity? I mean, obviously, sales cycles are getting longer and longer and longer because trust is harder to gain, especially as we go, up market with bigger avatars and so on. So what has worked for you guys to accelerate that sales cycle, get a decision made faster, get the next meeting booked not in 2 months, but in 1? How do you think about all this?
Sales cycles are the biggest challenge. And in professional services, they can be anywhere from a month to 2 years. It's taken 2 years to get some clients. We have one company we've chased for 3 years. We still haven't we've pitched 3 different engagements, haven't won any of them. You've got to be patient. You've got to realize that's the way the game is played. But along the way, the thing that we do, once we have initial conversations and there's a conversation, is we share content, we share information, we share things and touch the client during that sales process. And by doing so, you're building confidence with them. You're showing them that you understand their industry and the issues. You're showing them that you could be a good partner. You're building interpersonal rapport. You're obviously many times building more touches with different individuals at that organization. So this is how you can accelerate and shorten a sales cycle by touching multiple times in different ways and sharing different information along the way with that prospect. And maybe you can get them to move quicker. It's not easy, but it comes with, that's just the way the game is played.
I like your style, Craig, which is why I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball question at you now. What's your number one challenge? What's the one nut that you're trying to crack that, once you crack, you're going to take the whole thing to the next level? What would that be for you?
The number one challenge for us as a small boutique firm is business development. Having more conversations with people who can say yes. We're limited, even though we have a fairly broad marketing platform, as we discussed. There's only so many conversations that will come out of those efforts. So in a perfect world, I would have 2, 3, 4, 5 business development people going to professional meetings, shaking hands, going to dinners, going to conferences, trade shows. That's the one thing that is our biggest challenge. We're too small to be able to have a large staff. I tend to do a lot of the rainmaking with 1 or 2 others in our organization, but the rest of our people are delivery people. They're not interested or involved in new business development. So if you're a small organization, as I'm sure you know, your challenge is developing the business and delivering the business. And if you're doing too much delivery, you don't do enough development to keep the pipeline full. So it's a constant challenge of who are we talking to? How promising are those opportunities? Where are they in their sales cycle? And oh, by the way, are we also delivering the things we said we would do in a timely manner for the clients that have hired us? It's the challenge of being small. It really is.
The classic feast and famine cycle, I guess.
Exactly.
But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why we get paid, right? If we solve this challenge, we have a growing firm.
That's right. That's right. When we started, the biggest challenge for me was not knowing where my next paycheck would come from. I was working in companies like General Motors, Mattel Toys, the Walt Disney Company, Citibank, and these were all multinationals, and my checks came every week or 2 weeks. I had a fancy title, lots of benefits, When I went into this business, the title didn't matter. The checks were uncertain. Unless, what we like to say is we eat what we kill. And if we don't kill anything, we have nothing to eat, meaning there's no revenue for me and there's no money for me to pay my associates. So it's a challenge being a small boutique or even a mid-sized consulting firm. Even the bigger firms deal with the same issues.
Amen to that. Craig Apatov, ladies and gentlemen. Craig, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
Our firm is Ascension Growth and Innovation Strategies. You can check us out at ascensionstrategy.com, ASCENSION, and the word strategy with a Y.com. I'm available at Apatov at ascensionstrategy.com. And we can also be reached by phone at 404-250-4547. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the program today.
I appreciate you, Craig. We'll put all the links in the description. For what I'm concerned, you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I just added you. Craig, thank you so much for coming on the Principal Podcast.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you learned valuable strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.
Nice program. I like the